morning, everybody. I'm Akshadhatat, a proud Xaverian of grade 7D. I extend my propitious welcome to all and sundry for this webinar, the theme for which is cyberbullying, influence on behavior. Although this word cyberbullying is not new and almost all of us are aware of it, yet there is still a lot which remains unsaid and unknown. So we are all congregated here today to know the details and gain more knowledge on this topic. I have with me my four friends, Anushi, Deshna, Shaurya, and Shivansh. And recently making headway, let's take a quick insight on what actually is cyberbullying. I would first ask Shaurya to give us some ideas in this regard.
Thank you so much, Akshada. Do you know, the first time I heard about cyberbullying was when an uncle of mine told my dad that he had lost a lot of money while he did some online shopping. I wanted to ask more, but my parents seemed worried and let it go. This incident still worries me. Another incident I recall is when my mother got a call from someone stating that he is calling from KTM and asked her to get the KYC done. He also suggested that the KYC can be done online too. Last but not the least step, he asked her to download the Kono app. You and me will be astonished to know that the app was enabled to hack into your phone and it got my mom into a lot of trouble.
Oh my god, is that so, Shaurya? I hope your mom didn't share the OTP or password.
No.
I actually agree with Shaurya. And just to add further, I came to know about it from my friends that their Facebook got hacked. But apart from that, I have no idea about it. While texting and digital messaging are a central way teens build and maintain relationships, this level of connectivity may lead to potentially troubling non-consensual exchanges. A cousin of mine recently told me that someone had sent explicit images from her phone number and she had no idea how that happened. You remember in the beginning of the session, we were using Zoom for our online classes. But just because of the hacking, classes were called off for 3 days. And then we were shifted to Microsoft Teams for our online classes.
Very true.
The vast majority of teens believe that online harassment is a problem that affects people their age. But young people think that key groups such as teachers, social media companies, and politicians are failing at tackling this issue. Hence, I would never want myself to fall prey to any such danger, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed in this, hoping and looking forward to clearing all my doubts regarding this topic here today.
Name calling and rumor spreading have long been an unpleasant and challenging aspect of adolescent life. But the proliferation of smartphones and the rise of social media has transformed where, when, how, and what transforms to cyberbullying. I have no idea about it, and I'm eager to listen to the speaker to gain an insight about this topic.
I am flabbergasted. I had actually thought that it just means be threatened and bullied by electronic media. To be very honest, so far, I had a different perspective about the issue for the web. Technology-driven learning and use of internet is indispensable for students today. However, I strongly feel that caution is the key to safe use of e-learning and social media. There was an eye-opening incident with my father's friend, which landed him in a traumatic trap because he disclosed his personal details without being sure of his friend behind the gadget. Given that his identity was backed by a strategic defense profile, the problem was really big. The lesson learned was being very, very cautious before unveiling yourself and the so-called virtual friend. I know, friends, it is tough to outsmart the technology, or rather the hackers. Therefore, it is quintessential that we acknowledge the need to combat the ever-growing challenge of cyberbullying and learning how to do it. I feel blessed to be a part of St. Xavier's who has come forward with such a compelling thought for this webinar today. I am keen to take from this webinar today how to make the best and safe use of technology. You know what? Chaplin is my favorite for the very simple reason that is, hurting anybody for any reason is not human at all. To quote the beautiful thought of Charlie Chaplin, my pain may be the reason for someone's laugh, but my laugh must never be the reason for somebody's pain.
This is crucially important for us because we are the potential victims of cyberbullying, and if misguided, maybe unknowingly we could be bullied too. I am eagerly looking forward to listen to our speaker today to get detailed information regarding this.
So are we. Well, thank you all. Now it's time to welcome our guest speaker for the day. I request you all to put your hands together and extend a warm welcome to the guest speaker, Ms. Ritika Subhash. Ms. Ritika is a B.Tech Computer Science from Jamia Millia Islamia University, has done her MS in Management Information Systems from Texas A&M University. Ms. Ritika has worked in the education technology sector for over 8 years and has implemented online personalized mathematics learning interventions across socio-economic strata. Ma'am is a subject matter expert on artificial intelligence in education, neuroscience of learning, adaptive mathematics learning, and integrating technology for the 21st century classrooms. She is currently serving as the Director of Schools for the Blue Duck Education Limited, a London based education technology firm. Ms. Ritika is also a children's book author, a certified storyteller, and a proponent of conscious and mindful parenting. The list could go on about Ritika ma'am's accomplishments. So, without further ado, I would invite Ritika ma'am to share her thoughts with us on this brilliantly engaging and most relevant subject for today's generation. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome, children, and especially the description, Akshada. And namaste and welcome to all the parents and students and teachers who are attending this webinar. Thank you, St. Xaviers School, for arranging this very pertinent webinar at this time. I really appreciate this opportunity, and I must share, this is the first time I'm giving a student-led webinar interview, and this is a beautiful experience for me. It actually showcases the power that technology has if we use it correctly, right? Great. So just to kickstart things, you've already introduced a lot of aspects of cyberbullying, but I wanted to start with some questions. And what I would urge is all of you here from the St. Xavier's family, the students, the teachers, and the parents attending, if you can just share your response. So those who are on Facebook Live, if you can just type a comment, yes or no to these questions, it will help me understand just a sense of what you feel about it. And those who I can see on screen, you can raise your hands. So my first question is, and I'm going to start with the social media aspect of it because cyberbullying is very pronounced on social media. So we'll start from there and then we'll go into different aspects. So my first question is, have any of you ever felt a sense of exhilaration and excitement when you're about to post a very nice picture of yours on, Facebook or any other social media? Do you have that sense of exhilaration right before and just when you press the post button, do you feel it? Yeah, I can see all hands raised. Maybe some comments as well. Yes. Yeah. I can see people are responding with a yes. So now my second question is, have you manically checked how many likes or comments you have got for any post that you have made or any picture that you have shared on the social media as well? Okay, again, all raise hands and lots of yes, ma'am, we do. Now, slightly different question. Have you ever felt that when some people are responding with comments to your pictures or your posts, they seem to be positive comments? I mean, they seem to have a different presentation, but the connotation is negative. You get a sense of, some amount of negativity in their comment. Have you felt that ever? I can see Shivan's hand is raised. I can see people on the Facebook Live sharing yes. It happens. It happens to to us adults also. So I'm not just saying that cyberbullying is something that children are exposed to. They obviously are more vulnerable, but even adults. And I'm going to share how that works as well. And so my last question is, have you ever felt that somebody who you thought was your friend and good acquaintance is deliberately trying to ignore you online? So they are doing things, or they are not doing certain things just to ensure that you are a little excluded. Have you ever felt that? Great. I can see it's not a very positive thing, but I can see that there has been some impact in all of our lives. And I didn't raise my hand in any of these questions, but I think now I will raise it for all 4 questions, because I very well also answer a yes to all of these. So now coming to the whole thing about cyber presence, I think it's a beautiful, beautiful way to connect with the world. If I talk about my personal experience, I got my first access to internet and computer somewhere in the mid 1990s. All of you were not even born then, so it is way back then. And I'm talking about a time when we had dial-up connection, and we used to wait for at least 5 minutes for that connection to be established, and then get on to all of these websites. And back then, it was very popular to have these chat sites. So a lot of people connecting with each other remotely from different parts of the world. Before that, I used to have pen friends. Have any of you heard about pen friends? Not really. I know, because this is such an ancient concept. I feel like a dinosaur having shared this with you. But when people didn't have social media to connect with each other, they used to find out addresses of people living abroad or living outside the city and write letters to each other to share their lives and, make friends through pen or through writing. But all of that was changed after the introduction of the internet, and it was a very exhilarating feeling for me. And I felt that I can't believe that we can connect with anybody around the world with just a click of a button. So that's the kind of power that I'm talking about. And even today, now internet has obviously transformed, and there are so many different programs that we use day in and day out. We don't even realize, right from Google to all the Zoom that we are using, this platform that we are using to interact right now. All of these are a product of a lot of technological interventions that have happened in the last 20-25 years since the time that I'm talking about. And it's a mixed bag, right? There is lots of positives. There's things that we need to take out of it that are of use to us, and then there are murkier aspects of it that we need to stay away from, and we need to ensure our own safety. So this is the fact that I'm going to really emphasize on, because I don't want parents attending this webinar thinking about the online space as just a place where there are lots of bad things waiting to happen to the children. That's not the case. If we empower ourselves with the right knowledge, we can really leverage the power of this technology, not only in educating ourselves, but in taking our lives to the next level by developing so many things that we can do online and exploring creativity beyond. We haven't even explored an iota of potential of technology. So there's lots to do, but we need to empower ourselves with the right information before we go out there and conquer the world. So the first thing that is very obvious about the cyberspace, and sometimes we don't realize, is that it is 24/7 there. It is available for us to access. So in real life, when you're having an interaction with somebody, that could be a short interaction and then you've moved on. So you can say the scenario or the scenery has changed, right? You came from your school to your home, you went from your home to your playground. So the scenery is changing. Whereas in the online space, especially with social media, you have the same thing, which is sort of pasted on a wall, pasted on a portal, and you can go back to it again and again. And that's a bit of a thing that we need to be very careful about when we talk about the access to technology and how much we expose ourselves to it. That's the first thing. The second thing is the information is not only available to me, it is available to everybody on the platform, on the online medium, right? If I have something which I've publicly posted or shared, it's there for everybody to access. So I need to be mindful about this fact as well, and be mindful of the fact that it's not just accessible now, it is going to be accessible forever. Things on the online space, they leave their footprint forever, and that is why I say that the online space, when you type something on, where you write something on the online space, it's like walking on freshly cemented floor. So what happens when you have walk on with your shoes on a freshly cemented floor, or if have you seen a dog pug marks on freshly cemented floor? And those don't go away unless they are really taken up by the next level of cementing. So think of this as that layer which cannot be removed. So you're leaving your digital footprints for a good time to come. So this is where the mindfulness about the cyberspace comes. So now that I have built the context about how online medium is powerful, how different cyber portals are very powerful, let's come to the idea of cyberbullying and what it is all about. I know at the beginning, Akshada, Anushi, Shivansh, Deshna, all of you and the rest of the students who are in this panel have raised some very pertinent points about people asking for your KYC online, asking for sensitive information, posing as coming from some reputed organization. Those are all forms of, they are all, first of all, criminal acts, and they need to be reported. I'm talking of bullying more from the perspective of students, from children of your age, which is obviously very relevant to you. The other part is also relevant to you, but for the paucity of time, I'm going to focus on what might be very relevant for you people. So when we talk about bullying, let's actually unravel the word bullying itself. Bullying is the act of showing one's power or apparent power over another person. Okay, so it is a definite power play. If I say a mean comment just in passing, or if I've said something in jest and that has hurt somebody's feeling, that could be a rude thing to say, it could be a mean thing to say, but it need not be a bullying, an act of bullying. It will not categorize me as a bully. Whereas if I am definitely asserting my power over somebody, I'm cornering somebody and victimizing them, not just on one occasion, but repeatedly, with the malintention of hurting them, hurting their feelings, or hurting them physically, that clearly classifies as bullying. You must have, I would be surprised if you have not seen any of this, because I know we have all gone through such experiences. Sometimes we brush it under the carpet, sometimes we stand up to it. But when it comes to cyberbullying, there is a little bit of an extra impact, because like I said, it is there for good. So it impacts us much more, right? Like the change of scenery doesn't happen as it may happen in real life. Also, if you end up writing a mean comment or something that was ill intentioned, it is going to be there on the platform. You cannot negate it, you cannot run away from it. So it's literally, you are putting a stamp of your name on that comment. So you must make sure that you are actually, whatever you're doing now, I'm setting the stage for what you should do, but just to cover up some more aspects of bullying. So the first is, I've told you, it is a power play, where somebody is deliberately showcasing their apparent power. They think they are very powerful physically, socially, financially, and they make somebody else suffer through their acts and through their words because of that apparent power. And they do it repeatedly, and they do it with a malintention. Now, this could manifest in different ways. So one way it manifests in is exclusion. When you deliberately exclude somebody from group chats, or deliberately exclude somebody from, say, an online get together, that done repeatedly and done intentionally can be classified as an act of bullying. Harassment, if you actually write comments to malign somebody's character, or to misrepresent that person, or to say words about them that doesn't matter if they feel it is true or not, but if it hurts somebody's self-confidence, that classifies as harassment and also humiliation online. It is largely done in an open forum so that other people can join in and, gang up against one person. The other part is stalking. So just in real life, as stalkers do, they will stalk a person, they will try to find out where they live, what they do, try to, be overpowering in terms of their presence in that person's life. The same way in the cyberspace, a cyber stalker will do things like incessantly comment on your pictures. There's an unstoppable sort of interaction either through the comments or through instant messaging, and they are literally asking you, what are you doing now, good morning, good afternoon, good night, all of those things which make you feel a little uncomfortable and overwhelmed. The next is frapping. It's a fairly new word. In fact, I've also actually heard about it fairly recently. Frapping actually means that you are aping somebody's social profile. So you could actually either log into their, somehow you found their login credentials and you are posing as that person and you are misrepresenting that person. So obviously you are in the wrong side. There is absolutely no gray area here. If you're doing an act like that, then it is definitely an act of, it's a criminal act, and you are actually bullying somebody, you're actually intruding somebody's privacy. And then dissing again, it comes in the whole idea of disrespecting, of humiliating, of sometimes outing somebody. You found something about someone and you are sharing that secret publicly, right? That's called outing. When you have actually befriended somebody and you have made them share their innermost feelings and their thoughts and whatever they wanted to share, and then you have outed them in a public forum and you have shared that, oh, this was shared by me, by this person with me. So that all of these constitute cyberbullying. So now I know many of you may be aware of this, you know it, but it doesn't, it doesn't register when it is happening to ourselves. In theory, we may know all these things. In theory, we know what harassment is. In theory, we know what pushing somebody to the corner is. But when it happens to us, there are a variety of feelings that are going on in our brain, which sometimes prevent us from taking the right action. So now I'm going to talk about what are the kinds of actions you can take to ensure that you stay clear, that you don't fall on either end of the spectrum, neither the victim nor the bully, but in between, where you're navigating your way in the cyberspace comfortably and also supporting anti-bullying. So I'm going to talk about how you can do that. So the first point that I would like to mention is be mindful of your digital footprint. Whatever you are doing on the online space, let it pass through three gates. And this is a very famous saying. It's a saying that comes again and again in, when you are communication. So in communication, when you're communicating with somebody, it's a very famous saying that you must let your thoughts and your words pass through these three gates. What I'm going to say, is it true? Is it kind? And is it necessary? So these three things, while they are very important in face-to-face communication, I feel they are also very, very important in online communication, because that is, like I said, you are putting a stamp of your name and your presence on your comments, on your text, whether it is one-on-one or one-to-many. So make sure whatever you're saying or writing passes through these three gates of, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? I don't want to overwhelm you. As children, obviously you will have friendly banter, right? You'll have fun with your friends, and you should. I'm not saying you should be all proper and constantly at guard when you're online. That is not the idea. What I'm saying is, when you have these things at the back of your mind, you will always err on the side of caution, right? And even if you have made a mistake, even if you've you thought that you were just saying or writing something in jest, but somebody was actually hurt about it, you will then realize it now that you have actually gone through this webinar, and you can probably go back and rectify and apologize and make things right. But not knowing and not even being cognizant of your responsibility on the online medium, that is a bit of an issue. Hence, I really appreciate the fact that you and your school have taken this initiative to do this session so that more and more people can be aware. That is all. If we just spread awareness, things will they will take their time, but they will come to a place where it is all good and happy for most people online. So that's the first thing. Let your comments pass through these 3 fields. The next is I wanted to show you this little activity. I don't know if you can see my screen. You should be able to. But this is called the concentric circles of relationships. Okay. So as students, as children, I ask you to make these concentric circles of relationship. In the very middle of this circle, these are concentric circles. The smallest circle is you. So you can write your name here. The next circle is the names of your family, your trusted friends, your trusted guides, right? The next would be your colleagues and teachers, people that you interact with often, but you can't really categorize them as your friends, right? So they are a little less close to you than your friends, but they're obviously more than acquaintances because you interact with them daily. And the next circle is the acquaintances. Acquaintances are people that you just know. Okay, so and so neighbor lives 3-4 blocks down the line. You meet them, you maybe say a cursory hi when you cross the road and things like that. And the last thing is the rest of the world. These are the people that you do not know, you have not interacted, you cannot vouch for, and that's the thing. They are the rest of the world. So I would urge you to do this activity of making these concentric circles. This is very helpful in real life as well. In fact, sometimes when we are confused and we have mixed feelings and emotions, these concentric circles will really help you reach out to the right people and make them your lifelong confidant. So definitely do this activity. And what you can do after this activity is you can go back and look at your social media accounts or your online activity where other people are present and see what is the level of access or privacy that you have set for all of these kinds of people. Those who are your trusted group, your family, your trusted friends, your advisors, those who you regularly interact with, you can obviously share a lot much more that you wish to share. But those who are your acquaintances, those who definitely those who you've never met, hopefully you should keep as much distance from them as possible. But your acquaintances and all, you can tweak the privacy settings and only allow them to see limited content on your social media platform. So every social media platform has the good ones have their fairly strong privacy levels, and you should explore that as well and see what is the level of access you want to give to those acquaintances and limit that so that you feel confident and in charge of your social media profiles and what you are sharing and with who you are sharing and for what purpose you are sharing. So that's the first thing. Also, what you can do is there is a feature called tagging. So people can tag you on their photographs, on their pictures. I typically find that you should turn that feature off, or you should turn it to the setting where you have to first approve that tag, right? What it does is, that immediately, just out of the blue, nobody can tag you in a wrongful or a inappropriate picture. So once you do that setting, you are at least taking that first step that I will decide who tags me, or simply decide that nobody can tag you. And if you want, then you can obviously comment on that or share that post or whatever. So take things more and more in your hand and know that social media and all of these will work to your benefit if you think that you are the master and they are the products. It's not the other way around. These platforms are not the masters of us. So that's the second part. So the first thing that I mentioned was making sure that your comments are going through the 3 gates of, is it true, kind, and necessary? The second thing is make this concentric circles of relationships so that you know who your trusted group is. And that's very good to have at the back of your mind, even if you don't look at the privacy settings. The third thing I'll talk about is context collapse. Have any of you heard about context collapse? No, it's not a very common thing. But what is happening right now is all of us are present on different platforms. We are at least on 2 or 3 social media platforms. We are on some gaming platforms. We are on some e-learning sites, especially because of the corona closures. We have had to take a lot of help of online resources, e-learning resources, to be there, right? And I'm from the industry. I also represent Manga High, which is a mathematics learning program, and I know your school has done such wonderfully in the math program, and there is so much power in personalized adaptive learning. So I know that it is important to be on all of these platforms. But what is happening is a bit of a context collapse, which means that, let's say it's your Facebook account. On your Facebook account, you will also have your parents as your friends. You will have your grandparents as your friends. You will have your teachers as your friends. You will maybe have some adults, some children who are younger. So it's all over the place, right? And when you grow up, you take up a professional networking site such as LinkedIn, then you'll have professional contacts of people who are there in the industry as you. So the idea should be largely that you keep every platform sort of limited to the audience that you want to cater to. So for example, if it's a if it's a professional site, then you should ensure that only the professional network is there. If it's a personal networking site, then try to avoid the professional networking to be happening there, because whatever you share, there is going to be a difference of context in your post, right? So you may be acting very fun and jovial. You want to act fun and jovial in front of your friends, right? We all want to monkey around sometimes, and that's absolutely okay. But we don't know how that will go down with, say, professionals. So keeping all of these personas a little bit distinct, I feel is very, very important. That is about the context collapse. The other thing is, when you're using e-learning sites, when you're using getting online to learn subject matter, it is helpful to find sites that help you collaborate with a teacher, but the peer-to-peer collaboration is limited. Okay, because when you're on the e-learning site, your idea largely should be that you are using the content to educate yourself. You're using maybe some mentors help to clear your misconceptions, remediate and move forward. But make sure that the peer-to-peer interaction there is less, because there is a chance of maybe too much over interaction. It's a fine balance, right? It may work out, it may not work out. So choose very wisely. So for example, even in our platform in Manga High, you would have noticed that you can, there is a messaging feature. There's an inbox feature where a teacher can send a message to one child, two children, the whole class. But children can't message each other, right? So we need to sort of limit that, our access to that. So you can actually choose what e-learning sites actually limit that. And there is a very wonderful site called Common Sense Media. If you have not heard about it, you can make note of this. It is called Common Sense Media. You can go online on Google and search Common Sense Media. And what it does is it will give you a very good comprehensive listing of really good content for children online. It will give you the age appropriateness of every website. So what is the age appropriateness of accessing Manga High and other things. And in fact, Manga High is mentioned on Common Sense Media as one of the recommended platforms for e-learning. So not just that, you can go to such a platform, and as parents as well, because parents are attending the session as well, Common Sense Media you should definitely use to filter first level and see what are the kinds of sites that you can encourage your children to access, and what should be sort of kept in the kept away from. So that's about the doing some level of screening yourself. The next thing, the second last thing that I would say in terms of how to deal with cyberbullying is, when you are actually in the midst of it, when you're facing that issue and you are in the midst of it, what to do. So I'll tell you a very interesting story here. Some years ago, I was taking mixed martial art classes, and I was really enjoying learning this new art form, all the kickboxing, all of the strategies to prevent oneself when there's an attack and things like that. And I was really enjoying it. So this one time, our trainer actually, he stood in front of the class and he made us all sit, and he said, imagine that you're in a scenario that you're walking down the road and somebody is inciting you to fight. The first thing that you should do, and then he paused and we were all waiting, what is he going to say? Should we do this kind of cake or that kind of boxing, and what should we do? And we were really looking forward to it. But he said the first thing, your first instinct should be, and the first thing you should do is ignore and move away. Now, I was very upset when I heard that. I was like, really? We've been preparing so hard and we've been working so hard in learning this new craft. And here my teacher, my mentor is telling me to ignore somebody who's trying to harm me. I didn't understand it. And I asked him why he said that. And he said that the first thing that should come to your mind when somebody is being hateful to you is self-preservation, right? Do everything to preserve yourself. If it means shutting off the laptop, if it means, just taking a break, just letting things sink in and forgetting about it and ignoring it and let it be and let the other person do whatever they want and not affect you, that is the best strategy if you can do it. If and again, it's all very contextual, right? There could be issues that can't be ignored, but let these 3 steps happen consecutively and you'll understand why it is important. So the first thing is, if it is something that is you can ignore, please do ignore it. The next level is to call it out, and do that confidently. Say it to somebody's face and write it in their comments that you do not appreciate such comments. Please do not do that. And then see if there is a response, because sometimes, like I said, inadvertently we may make a comment which we also don't realize has had a negative impact on somebody. So let that be out there. And if that doesn't help, the third level is to A, block that person, B, gather all the evidence of all the negative things or threats or the bullying that has happened, gather evidence, gather screenshots and report it. And this is, if you let it pass through these 3 things, and they can happen all in the same day, right? In the same day you can try and ignore it, but later if it gets too much, you can call it out. And by the end of the day, if it still doesn't get resolved, immediately within the same day, go ahead and take all the evidence down, take screenshots and report it to the relevant agencies. And I'll cover that as well. Especially the Ministry of Women and Child Development, they have floated a helpline for any of these cyber crimes or cyber misdoings, and it's called complaint hyphen mwcd@gov.in, and I can share that later in the comments as well. If you go online, you will find it. It's by the Ministry of Women and Child Development, complaint hyphen mwcd@gov.in. So all of these snapshots can be shared and a report can be made. If there is no response from, and the next thing is you should actually report to the cyber cell. So there are cyber cells, cyber crime cells in major cities across the country. So find which is the nearest cyber crime cell near your house and give a report to them. And if they are not willing to take down the report for any reason, then you can actually do the judicial procedure as well. So you can go the route of going to a judicial magistrate and then taking it up in that level, depending on the kind of cyberbullying incident it is. Lastly, I would say, because you are children, you're a community that is very strong and you are literally the future of the country. I would say the best thing that you can do is stand up for others. If you see that somebody is getting maligned, somebody is getting hurt or wrongfully represented online, or they are being excluded or they are being cornered, raise your voice with full confidence. I mean, all of you sitting here with budding with such confidence, talking to us, talking to different people around the world, there is no dearth of confidence in you guys, and you can really make a difference in somebody's life. And imagine the impact that you will have on your friend's life when they realize that you stood up for them in that difficult situation. So always be the person who is supporting what you apparently know is the right thing, and also be emotionally available to them. Ask them how they are feeling. be their inner trusted circle, so that tomorrow if something happens to you, you know that you have built some sort of a fallback plan for yourself as well, and you are just basically doing this to be on the right side and do the right thing. So this is, in fact, all of the things that I wanted to discuss with you in terms of what is cyberbullying and what you can do um, to to address if you find yourself in that situation. I'm very happy to take up questions at this time, and again, thank you so much to your school, to St. Xavier's High School, and to all of you children, wonderful children, for giving me this platform to share my thoughts.
Thank you so much, ma'am. You have very beautifully explained to us about cyberbullying, and it was a very enriching session. Now it is time for the questionnaire. Before we proceed, a gentle reminder, dear audience, you can still post in your questions in the comment box. Now, without prolonging, I would invite Shaurya to put forth the questions.
Shaurya is not audible. Can you unmute yourself?
Ma'am, am I audible now?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Akshada. Ma'am, could you please suggest some ways on how to stand up kids who bully?
So, like I said, standing up has to be done on various levels. So first is, you can actually, if there has been maligning comments online, you can post a separate comment, and then make sure that you are really standing up for your friends. You can actually report it to your parents if it's happening to you, your trusted group, like I shared, and your parents can then reach out to the school counselors, to the school authorities, and all of those steps can then be taken. And like I said, the cyber crime cells in your city are definitely something that you should get hold of, as well as the Ministry of Women and Child Development helpline numbers and helpline email IDs to reach out to. So these are some of the steps in which you can actually reach out to others for help.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was indeed very helpful information.
Thank you.
My question is, what do we mean when we say keep the lines of communication open?
Keeping the lines of communication open actually comes back to that concentric circle of relationship. If you really do a little bit of introspection, we have always a few number of people, our family, close, maybe grandparents, some close friends that we have known from our childhood. And those are the people who we really like to communicate our thoughts with. And sometimes we may even not be comfortable communicating with them. So it is a two-way thing. It is not just your responsibility as a child, as a young person, young adult, to communicate. It is also the responsibility of the parents to give a conducive environment and place their trust in you, so that you can reciprocate with your trust in them, right? So it is a two-way thing. What I'm saying is not just relevant for you, it is also relevant for the parents. As a parent, if I'm constantly dismissive of my child, if I'm constantly telling them that they are no good and they can't navigate their way on the online thing, and constantly maybe also being that kind of a hawk, that I'm looking at their activities every now and then, I think it really spoils the trust in the long term. But the other side of the coin is, trust does not get built overnight, right? It's a very slow process, and it starts when we can, at the beginning of the relationship, when our kids are young, we have to start investing in trust both ways from that time onwards. And that is what is really the basis of keeping the communication channels open. One way that parents can do it is being very authentic with your children. Share your failures, share things that you have done wrong, share your mistakes, share your heartbreaks with children. I have found this to be a very practical solution, because when our children don't see us as a perfect human being and don't keep us on a pedestal, they will never be afraid of us or sharing anything, right? Because they know that their parents have also made mistakes. So this is probably one of the best tips that I have followed in my life, and I have seen it work for many families around me, and I have interacted with students for now 10 plus years now. So this is something which is a long term process, but a sure short way to build trust is to share your own failures with children, share your own limitations. So yeah, that will keep the channels of communications open.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Ma'am, I couldn't understand what masquerading is. Please care to throw some light on this.
So, like I mentioned, there is a term called frapping, where you are actually getting access to somebody's social media profile and you are pretending to be them. Similarly, masquerading is actually getting into somebody's network, so the computer network, and then manipulating their computer for sensitive information. So again, this is very much possible if we divulge too much information to somebody who we should not have divulged to. So for example, sharing things like OTP, sharing your passwords, giving access to your computer to a remote user who you don't know, who you don't trust. All of this can lead to masquerading, and essentially what it means is somebody is putting a mask on themselves and they are pretending to be you while they're not, and they are taking your sensitive information, and they can take anything, right? The bank account, anything that they can get into to use it against you.
Thank you, ma'am. And my next question is, for what reasons do people cyberbully, and whether physical bullying is worse or not than cyberbullying?
Well, to answer the second part of your question, I don't think I would be able to make that comparison, because again, it really depends on who is going through what kind of circumstance and what kind of act of bullying it is. To me, it's just the same in terms of, if somebody is bullying you in real life, they can physically harm you immediately. Whereas somebody who's doing it online may not be able to physically harm you immediately. It can be a longer thing, but they can really mentally torment somebody, and it is not just limited to children, even adults are prone to it. So things like trolling, where people continuously write poor comments or ill-intentioned comments, things like that have a very very long-term impact. And when I started this webinar, I told you that the two-edged sword of cyberspace is that it is always available to you, right? So you can actually mull over it much longer. You can go back to the comment and start, having all of those negative feelings again. So I think that's where there is a difference, but both are bad and both need to be addressed, whether it's physical or cyber. So no, don't think that cyberbullying can be brushed under the carpet, and it should not be that way. Your other question is, the first question being, why do people cyberbully, or why do people bully at all? It could again stem from many things. It could stem from their own loneliness. It could stem from their own insecurities. If you are doing something which they aspire to do and they don't know that they have limitations, and they end up maligning you because that's what they feel. So it could be so many reasons. It's hard to say, but what I want to leave you with the thought is that think of the cyberbully also as a human, right? They were not born cyberbullies. They have gone through certain experiences which may have made them commit a bullying act. So being a little bit compassionate and understanding, trying to understand where they're coming from, but stepping back, because the first thing for you should be self-preservation. You have to be safe. Keep that at the top of your mind always, and reach out to whoever you think can help you. Do not be afraid. Even if a bully is telling you that don't tell this to anyone or I'll hurt you more, do not listen to that voice. Do not listen to that person. Simply report to whoever you feel confident with. This is the most important thing, that your self preservation is the most important thing. And the other person is powerless. At least make them powerless. The more importance you give them, the more powerful they get. The less importance you give them, the lesser power they have on your mind space. So definitely do that. And so again, many reasons why somebody can be.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, you just spoke about supporting the friend and reporting the problem. So, ma'am, what should I do if my friend is a victim of cyberbullying and he does not want to report the case?
Um, See, again, this is something which, again, there's no straight answer to this, to be very honest. And I know where you're coming from. Um, it's very strange. I'll tell you about this little short story that I wrote in my first book. So, my first book was actually on emotions. The title of that book was Let's Talk About My Feelings. And all that book had was 12 short stories of 4 lines, that's it. And each was evoking a different kind of emotion. So now your question actually reminded me of one of the stories in that book, where in the scene you can see that there is an adult who's exiting the room, and he has in some form assaulted a young kid, maybe with a belt or something, physically assaulted the kid. And he is sort of overpowered and said that don't share it with anybody. And after that story, I asked a question: what would you do if this child was your friend? So the idea with this book was I wanted people to write down their thoughts as if they were observing this happening, and what would they do. Honestly, I don't know what's the best way to handle this, but my recommendation would be, if it is bothering you and the other person, your friend, is not willing to take the step or very afraid to take the step, report it to whoever you can. Report it to your parents. At least that much you can do. You can report it to the school counselor. Obviously you would have observed some visible changes in your own friend. Maybe they've become very silent, they've become inactive, they're not interacting, they're not performing in class. Some things have happened that made you realize that they are going through something. Or if you've seen it, if you have observed it happening with your own eyes, please do not sit silent. This is my recommendation. Report it to whoever you feel is in your trusted circle, and then let them take the next action. The problem is, many times we continue this act of brushing things under the carpet unless it literally knocks on our doors. So don't wait for that time, and raise your voice when you feel it is appropriate.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your great input.
Thank you.
Okay, so ma'am, with your permission, I would like to proceed for the audience questions which have been put in the chat box.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so the first question is, ma'am, at what age kids should be allowed to make their personal accounts on social media?
So the question is, kids should not be allowed, you say?
No, the question is, at what age kids should be allowed?
At what age? Okay. I think all of the social media platforms have their recommended age. So when you start making a profile in any account, before it takes in, it asks you for your date of birth.
Yes, ma'am.
And they will mention in their laws as to what is the minimum age that can access this particular site. Now the problem is, as parents, sometimes because of our own keenness and we want to create a profile for our kid, we actually misrepresent their age, and we will put in some incorrect age just so that they can have a profile on the social media platform. I think that is very wrong. Please refrain. If there are parents on this session, I would really urge you to refrain from that urge to do that, because there is a reason why these things have been made in a certain way, why the access should only be given to children who are at that age to be able to handle things that come with it, things like people making comments, things like all of these expectations that we have with social media. And young children are clearly not, I think the best way to network or socialize is out there in the playgrounds. So let your kids do that, and please follow whatever are the age regulations, whether it is 14 years or 15 years or whatever it is. If we follow that, at least we'll take the first step right. And the idea is, ask the children as well, right? Once they are at that age, it doesn't mean that if my child is 14, just on that the 14th birthday I need to create their Facebook account or their Instagram account. We should actually get the child, if we think that they are old enough to navigate their time on, or their cyberspace, we should give them at least that much of leverage to ask them that, do you want to be on the social media platform at all? Because that's the other thing, we use our children's photographs, we use all of that so callously. And I'm also guilty of that, because we've never been taught all these things. My parents were not internet users. I was the first generation user, right? So I've also made a lot of mistakes and come to this point of understanding, at least getting my head around, what is the level of privacy should we give, where can I actually stretch myself and make my account public, where should I keep it private, what are the things that I should expose. And this is a constant struggle that I also go through. But this is the kind of questioning and reasoning that we need to allow our children to have, so that they can make judgments for themselves, right?
Okay, ma'am, coming on to the second question. Good afternoon, ma'am. What do you think is the appropriate age of children to start using Instagram?
Again, I would just leave it to what is the privacy settings of that particular social media platform. And I would also urge parents to take a pragmatic view of it. Instagram, for example, is very popular for picture sharing, right? Not so much for post sharing, but it's a very visual medium. So again, what are we expecting the children to be sharing? What is okay? We need to have these difficult conversations with them. I would think, um, I mean, this is my personal view, but at least 15 to 16 years of age, at least till that time, if we can ensure that our children are focused more on real life networking and not social networking, I think that would, that would set a good stage for things to come later. And by that time, you become a little more responsible, you become a little more aware of all of these things that are happening around you, so that you can keep away from the mirth and save yourself. Again, self-preservation is number one.
Okay, ma'am, to proceed with the third question. Ma'am, how can we save our kids from cyberbullying, which is on the rise these days?
Again, things like, first thing that we just mentioned in this question is, first ensure that kids who are very young are not accessing the social media platforms or the online platforms, because there you may have this thing about who is accessing their content, what can it be used for or misused for. So just being cognizant, and like I mentioned, the common sense media, right? commonsensemedia.org. As parents, if you can go to that website and whatever books or movies or online platforms you want to search, you can put in the search box and see what is the rating of that movie, what is the rating of that site, rating of that book. Is it age appropriate? What are the parts that can be exposed to children? So as parents, just empower yourself with that knowledge that all of it is there for you to use. If you don't use it, if you use the default settings everywhere, then I think it's quite a dangerous thing to do. But make sure, like I said, the technologies, all of these platforms are for our use, we are not for their use, is something that you have to be keeping in your mind. There are things that you can do in terms of, I had mentioned earlier, the privacy settings. In fact, Facebook has done a very interesting thing I hear recently. Earlier, they used to have a report function. So if there is anything inappropriate, you could find it under the report. Now they have changed it to a very easy, this post is a problem. So you don't have to search within the settings of where should I report. Just if you find a post inappropriate, you can mark it as inappropriate then and there. So they've made it easier for you to report these contents. So just be aware that these features are there for you to use.
Okay. And ma'am, for the last question, what is social media? Please share some details about it.
Sorry?
What is common social media? Please share some details about it.
Common social media or common sense media?
And common social media.
I think what the question is asking is Common Sense Media. That is the website that I have shared. Like I mentioned, Common Sense Media has the option for you to explore what is the age appropriateness, what is the kind of content, what is the accessibility of that particular site or movie or book. And then as a parent, you can take that that option that, do I want to expose my child to this? Am I comfortable if my child is accessing this kind of content? So that is one place to find it out. There is no replacement for trust. This is what I want to actually really re-emphasize on that fact. You can put as many filters as you want. You can do the common sense media thing, you can do a lot of those things, but unless there is a bond of trust where I can come and share with you my failures and you can come and share with me your thoughts and feelings and failures, it's not going to work. If I try to impose my decisions on you, it may work for some time, but honestly, it doesn't even work for me for my little 5-year-old, right? So I have to actually include him in decision making, whether it is decision making about what he's eating, what he's wearing, where we are going, how we are setting up his new room, all of that. And I give him that opportunity to do that decision making, because then it becomes a collaborative thing. If it is only a one-sided affair, where as a parent I'm imposing my thoughts, imposing my views, that I have given a blanket statement that cyberspace is very dangerous, then so what? In today's time, can you live without it? Possibly can't, right? Coronavirus and these closures and these lockdowns have shown us that we are really we have to find a synergistic relationship with the online medium and not treat it as our enemy. So how do we do that? We have to do it through these steps, right? So believe that there is good and bad in the real world, there is good and bad in the virtual world. People who are good in the real world ideally will be good in the virtual world, but it could be anything, right? They could be exploring another persona of themselves. So somebody who's not a bully in real life may be a cyber bully. Somebody who's a cyber bully may be very, very shy in real life. So I feel there is no formula to this. You have to empower yourself with knowledge, you have to empower yourself with confidence, and then absolutely go ahead with using this medium for your own betterment.
Ma'am, I would like to thank you for answering all the questions.
Thank you so much.
I know there are many questions, but considering the time limit, the last question for the day is, what do you think parents can do to help stop cyberbullying?
Again, I think we've covered some aspects of it earlier, but when you see cyberbullying happening, and for parents, it's very difficult. Being a parent, I have full empathies with parents, because sometimes it feels like whatever you do, it is never enough, right? And it is not really, it's not black and white that it's always the parent's fault if the child is a victim or if the child is a bully. Sometimes circumstances unroll themselves in a way which are out of your hand. You may have done things inadvertently as parents and in your parenting journey that led to this particular issue cropping up, and things will crop up. Even though I am sitting here with you and speaking about this topic, is there any guarantee that my child will can never be a victim of cyberbullying? Can anybody guarantee that for me? No, right? So the only thing in life that we can do as parents, as educators, as students, as children, is to empower ourselves with the knowledge. If we have this knowledge that cyberbullying is possible, it is a potential, expression of somebody, that person is not all bad, they could have something brewing inside them that needs to be addressed. And it can be addressed through school counselors. Definitely, as parents, I would recommend that be in close touch with your school counselors. I would recommend that you take up, actively start following these things yourself, right? On your social media platforms, try to do these things that your context dilution doesn't happen. Make sure that you are setting the right examples for your kids, and you are not writing mean comments or just throwing around poor language and bad words online. So as parents, you really have to set the example right? So that is the first thing. But if you feel that your child is a victim of the cyberbullying or is a bully, the first thing is keep your own thoughts aside. Don't start this cycle of wallowing in your own guilt and feeling, what have I done? Is it my fault? All of that. Let those be temporary things. If you feel them and keep them aside. And the next thing is go ahead and help the child. Start communicating, start talking rather than asking. Sometimes as parents, we get so hassled that we will again bully our child to say, why are you getting bullied? Who is bullying you? And it's bullying, right? When we are pushing a child against the wall and we are cornering them and we are just saying, no, tell us, no, tell us, no, tell us, we are again doing the same thing. So for parents, I know it may sound like I'm preaching, but there is no easy way. You have to find balance in your emotions first, and once you feel balanced, go ahead and start communicating. Talk to the child, what have they been feeling, how long have they been feeling it for, what is the extent of this feeling, can it be ignored, can it be blocked, can it be called out, or should it be reported? Have that discussion. If your child is not in a position to have that discussion, then take that call, and all of these options are there for you to take a legal recourse if needed.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was a pleasure to listen to you. You have given us a clear insight on what actually is cyberbullying and how we can be careful. I am very sure we are much equipped now to deal with cyberbullying. A heartfelt thanks on behalf of the school, my friends, and all the audience. I would request you to share your parting words with us.
Yeah, so I think my parting words are going to be short because I have spoken a lot in the last 1 hour. I just want to part with this thought that I want you all to feel comfortable with the cyberspace and not be overwhelmed by it. Make your choice as to where you want to be present, and don't fall in this trap of FOMO. Have you heard of this word called FOMO? Fear of missing out. So don't fall in this trap of, this fear of missing out, that if I'm not on all 10 social network sites, I'm going to miss out on a lot. It is going to happen anyway, right? You cannot know everything under the sun anyway. So have that confidence and make your own choices and decisions and space it out, so you can be on gaming sites, but ensure that if you're playing a game, for example, with an unknown person, make sure you don't divulge any information. It's the same thing, right? Imagine that you are going out for grocery shopping for the first time. Go back to that time when your parents, for the first time in their life, they gave you some money and they told you, can you go to the grocery store and buy some bread and butter for us? And the first time they did it with a lot of instructions, right? Make sure you look straight, make sure when you're crossing the road, then you're looking at the signals, there should be no car around, don't talk to strangers, all of that the parents say. The same way, as parents, if we give the right guidance to our children to navigate the cyberspace, I think they will do fairly well. And we have to somewhere let go and trust. So definitely do all of these things systematically so that you can build more and more confidence about this space, and absolutely leave something which doesn't work for you. Leave it and move on. So that's all that I would like to end with, and thank you so much.
Thank you once again, ma'am. Finally, to conclude this stimulating session, we would like to pay heartfelt gratitude to our school, St. Xaviers High, for giving us this platform to conduct this enthralling session. We would like to take this opportunity to thank the management, both our director sirs, Mr. Mohit Sachdeva and Mr. Tarun Sachdeva, for being our guiding force, our respected principal sir, Mr. Stanley Anthony, for a most worthwhile and informative experience. A very big thank you to our beloved headmistress ma'am, Ms. Geeta Kanwar, and our dear teachers in helping us put this event together and supporting us. Last but not the least, the parents, guardians, and participants for sparing your time to be a part of our sincere endeavor and making this event a huge success. I would also like to thank my fellow panelists Shivansh, Deshna, Anushi, and Shaurya. Last but not the least, I would also like to thank the IT department, especially Dayal sir, for helping us throughout. We look forward to bringing you even more presentations in the future. Signing off for now. Good day, all.
Good day.